Hey everyone, hello and welcome, Tony Bing here. For this test centre video I'm very surprised and happy to say that we're looking at a massive quality of life update for Blade. Now there is a little bit of a sting to it because, as you probably know, I spent about 4 or 5 days kinda trying a new format of guide, and of course I done it for Blade, and then 2 days later it gets announced he's getting all these changes, so it did sting a little bit for a day or two, but really I'm glad to see the big man getting some changes, so hopefully it will be worth it anyway. So let's run through all these skills. We'll look at the skills and then we'll look at the talents and traits as well. The first tree we'll look at then will be the Vampire Hunter tree. Now the main difference here is that Blade's melee skills no longer consume spirit, and the reason for that, if you look down the bottom right of the screen, he no longer has that as a resource. He now has ammo, and it's his guns and the tools of the trade part that actually consume that, so we'll discuss that a bit more when we get to that tree. For this one, he now has one primary melee attack. I can't actually recall the name of the last one he had, his basic attack, but his primary one is now any means necessary, and you can see that it's got the basic tag there. It's not going to consume any kind of resource at all, so that's nice. We then have the dash. That's just much the same there, same charges and dodge rating built into it. And serum, again, very much the same. This part of the video will be quite quick because most of the changes are really from the talents. But we then have the glaive orbit, which is the same idea, grievous wounds, and the wounds don't stack. And then we have possibly my favourite skill, whiplash. So thankfully that all looks the same there. It's still got the bleed on it, it's doing damage 4 times a second, and it's got extra damage from attack speed and weaken as well. I really do like that skill a lot. And then we have another glaive attack. This time we've got unleash glaive, so same idea as that, as the grievous wound effect doesn't stack at all. And then we finish up this tree with party crasher, so just the same, your crash down ability, and it provides vulnerability as well there. So let's look at the tools of the trades section now. So we now move on to the tools of the trade tree. Now in this section we'll talk about your new resource ammo. So we start off with pump action, and you can see that it actually says ammo cost. Now this is 74.2 ammo that it uses. We then have another spender. The hand cannon is moved from a basic to a spender, and the ammo cost is 24.7. The attack speed is round about double, but the intent is, from looking on the forums, is that hand cannon uses a bit less ammo, so you don't run out of ammo as quickly, but it's more single target. The pump action shotgun will burn through ammo quicker, but it's got the spread on it, so it's quite good that you get the choice there. You then have whittle into kindling, which is the same as before. It's your grievous wounds, the only difference being the ammo cost. Now what I'll do is I'll actually fire this off for a second so you can see the ammo run down, because when it runs down it starts to recharge again. There we go, once we're out of ammo it's recharging, and you'll notice once it's recharging we can't use any of the particular skills. There are however talents that can help alleviate that. Next up anyway, we have UV grenade, which is your ranged vulnerability applicator here with a 2-second stun. And thankfully we now have stake through the heart, which is the execute, and also stake thrower, which is a ranged execute. We now have them put back into the tree, so we don't have to use a talent for them, which is brilliant. And you also notice stake thrower has 2 max charges. Now they have kind of beefed up the animation on stake thrower a bit, but when you use it you glitch and go into a T-pose given, and this is test centre, so I'm not going to show it off this now, but just bear in mind that when it comes to live the skill will look a bit nicer. We then have our toxin loaded gauntlets. This is the same idea as before, with the immobilize, vulnerability from grievous wounds effects, and also the death explosion as well. So if you tag an enemy, if they die within the, let's see, I think it's the 6-second cooldown it's mentioned there, they explode and other enemies can explode as well, so that's pretty nice. And then there's hyper toxin grenade, and this is kind of the same idea. as the toxin loaded gauntlets with the big death explosion and vulnerability from grievous wounds. And also, previously you had to use a talent to choose which one of these you want to use, so now we've got the option again, so that really is good. And then we finish up this tree with my namesake, which is your range signature there. It's just doing the same as it would before, the physical damage packets for 10 of them, and then the final knife does a 100% chance to brutal strike, and also you have the 80% chance while channeling, or 80% damage resistance even while channeling there. So let's now look at the talents and traits where a lot has changed. Okay, so we'll start off straight away looking at the talents, the reason being the offensive trait and the defensive trait haven't changed, and the middle option here, which is your tooltip, which tells you about your primary and secondary resources, that's not been updated yet to mention ammo, although when it does it's going to be one hell of a long tooltip there. But let's start with the first line. We have never sated, so that's just the same as it is, and I'm a big fan of this particular one. I really do like this, and I imagine any build I use will be based on this one. But the next talent we have is steady regimen. So now self-inflicted damage while starving is reduced by half. The serum's buff effect duration is doubled, and when the serum is activated it restores 100% of your maximum ammo, so that's going to be for your gun users there. And then you have in control, so with this first never increases, so if we choose we don't need to have serum on the bar at all, so that's good. It's defense rating multiplier, dodge rating multiplier, base health, regen health, and if you were to use the serum, if you did have it on the bar, the duration of it goes up by 2 seconds as well. But now you do have the choice of dropping it from your bar if you want to put another skill there. And then talent line 2, we have vicious wounds. So grievous wounds gains the following effects: damage 50% and also a 30% slow as well, so I do like that. Saying that, I do think I would be using killing strokes, so my namesake transforms into killing strokes. As you know, killing strokes is a melee attack with 3 unique effects. A little bit disappointing that wasn't pulled into the actual skills as standard and we need to use a talent for it, because if you're going melee you want to use that, so it rules out the other rather nice effects in this line. But the third talent, it's Killer Glaive, so with this the Glaive Orb gains a cooldown, and so does Unleash Glaive, and they'll do extra damage, and Unleash Glaive gains max bounces. It's another 4, 7 is standard, so it'll be 11 in total. Now what I'll actually do before we move on to the next line is show off killing strokes now, because the animation's been changed, it looks a lot nicer. There we go, we can actually see the big kind of circle round them, the big red effect of where it would be damaging, so should be a bit easier to hit enemies. I do like that. Talent line 3, life of the party, so Party Crasher deals double damage to enemies in the centre, and it always delivers a critical hit when you're starving. Previously this would offer, I can't remember the name of the buff, but it would offer the buff, it was maybe guarded, and it had something like a 5-second uptime, and there was a 6-second cooldown on crashdown, so it was too powerful. I'm not surprised it has been changed. The next talent, Precision Strikes, so any means necessary gains 10% critical hit chance, 25% damage, and hand cannon gains the same, the critical hit chance, the damage, and it no longer spends ammo there. So that's another option for people that want to go for a gun build. You can reload, or you can use a spender that's not going to, well, I say a spender, you can use a main skill that's no longer going to consume any resource. And then we have psychoactive pheromones, so toxin loaded gauntlet and hyper toxin grenades death explosion causes enemies to be terrified, 50% extra damage, and they gain charges as well there. Talent line 4, we start off with Patient Hunter. I do like this one, so killing strokes damage goes up by 10%. When you use a cooldown power, reduce the cooldown of killing strokes by 0.5 seconds. That's interesting. Killing strokes is very powerful. Would be nice to see us to be able to use it more often. And also the effects are doubled while starving. We then have Expanded Arsenal, so this is for your gun users now. max ammo, ammo cost reduction of 10%, and whittle into kindling and pump action deal extra damage. And then finally in this line we have ruthless efficiency. So killing strokes restores 100% of your ammo, resets all cooldowns, and restores all charges of your other powers. Now if we click and turn this off and change killing strokes into my namesake, you'll see that it changes there in the tooltip. And we'll click it once more and it changes. So either signature will have the same effect there. It's the same for this one here actually. Let me just show it off. There we go, we can see that it says my namesake. Click here, then it becomes killing strokes. For the fifth and final talent line we have Vampire Hunter. So critical hit chance 3%, brutal strike chance 3%, base damage, damage received extra, and the effects are tripled while starving. So that'll make for a very interesting kind of risk reward build there. I'm intrigued by that. And then we have Sharpened Stakes. So Stake Thrower gains extra damage versus bleeding, and so does Stake Through the Heart, and they also gain charges there. And then we finish up with Vibranium Batteries. So UV Grenade gains the following effects: pulses an additional 2 times at half damage, and that gains, well I say gains 2 charges, it has a maximum of 2 charges. On the subject of that, previously you could get 3 charges on Stake Thrower and Stake Through the Heart, but I do possibly agree that 3 charges on an execute was a bit powerful, so I'm not going to complain then that it's pulled down to 2. So all very interesting. I reckon I will be trying to salvage the guide that I'd done the other day, because I saved all the different parts of it and I've got all the tooltips saved in Photoshop and so on, and I'm a big fan of Blade. So what I'll do, have a play around, see if I can come up with a build, and a few days later I'll put out a video in the format that the previous Blade video was in as well. But if you're a Blade fan, let me know in the comments below of what you think of these changes. I'm certainly intrigued and I see a lot more build options. The only downside is that my previous guide is gone, but that's me being selfish saying that, and I'll have a lot more fun actually playing with them now, and I'll create another guide in time anyway. But again, let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you all again soon.